Start. Yeah. Okay. Right. Order. Order. Call Preet Corgill to move the motion.
House has considered Sikh and Jewish ethnicity data collection by public bodies. It is a pleasure to serve under your chairship, Mr. Betts, and can I welcome my honourable friend, the Minister, to her role. For more than 40 years, Sikhs and Jews have been recognised in law as both ethnic and religious groups. This is long established, confirmed by the 1983 Mandela v Dowley judgment and reaffirmed by the Equality Act 2010. Yet in practice, our system still failed to acknowledge what the law clearly states. Nearly 6 decades after racial discrimination laws were introduced, public bodies still do not collect ethnicity data on Sikhs and Jews. This is not a technical oversight. It is a structural problem with the way public bodies and our government collect ethnicity data. One that prevents us from understanding inequality, recognising discrimination, and properly protecting communities that the law says we must protect. In December 2024, I introduced my 10-minute rule bill, the Public Body Ethnicity Data Bill. This bill provides that where a public body collects data about ethnicity for the purpose of delivering public services, it must include specific Sikh and Jewish categories as options for a person's ethnic group. This is about how the United Kingdom delivers its public services. This is not a theological discussion, as ONS has told every public body that they can only use, and this is really important, the current ethnicity data categories for service delivery. So time and time again, national reviews have shown that Sikhs and Jews are missing from the data sets that shape decisions about public services. In 2018, the Women and Equality Select Committee heard that the government's race disparity audit had identified around 340 data sets across government, yet not one included data on Sikhs. My own written parliamentary questions have revealed that government departments do not collect ethnicity data on Sikhs and Jews. I will.
And the Honourable Lady for Birmingham, Edgbaston, for all that she does on behalf of the Sikh community. And I'm very happy over the years we've developed a friendship through freedom of religious belief, and we'll be able to stand together for each other, and that's something that always encourages me. Does the Honourable Lady agree that Sikh and Jewish people who are legally recognised as an ethnic group under the Equality Act 2010, yet current public data collection often reduces them solely to a religion, which is wrong? Does the member agree that Jewish people and Sikh people and other minority communities face both subtle and overt forms of discrimination? It is therefore imperative that public bodies collect accurate ethnicity data, and it will send a clear message that Sikh and Jewish people and others are valued, visible and protected in every part of this great United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland.
I thank my honourable friend for his intervention. He makes a really important point. I am going to come on to the reasons in terms of practice why this is really important. But he is right. We are both legislators in this House. I know we both take our responsibilities very seriously, and we want to see all communities be treated fairly under the law, and we must implement the law, and I really thank you and value his intervention. As I said, my own written parliamentary questions have revealed that government departments do not collect ethnicity data on Sikhs and Jews. And the only information collected, as my honourable friend has just said, is religious data. But religious data is inconsistent, it's incomplete, and it's rarely used in designing or delivering services. And it excludes people who are ethnically Sikh or Jewish but do not practice their faith. User need has been clearly met and evidenced by the plethora of evidence available that simply cannot be ignored by the ONS. I will.
Very grateful to the Honourable Lady and congratulate her on securing this debate. My constituent Dan has written to me to express his strong support for Sikhs and Jews being able to identify as an ethnic group. He is Jewish, not religious, and says it's important for him to be able to register himself as belonging to a group not currently permitted under the census data. So does the Honourable Member agree that Jews and Sikhs do face discrimination, whether they're religious or not? And it's important both for their identity and for the delivery of public services to be able to identify their ethnicity.
Absolutely, and I thank him for that intervention. I think that's really important. At the moment, you know, I have a staffer who equally is Jewish, who doesn't feel that he's religious, but he wants the option to tick his ethnicity because he says I am Jewish. And, you know, this is simply giving people the option. No one is forcing anyone to tick any other box. You can tick any box that you think reflects your ethnicity. But absolutely, given the Equality Act, given race hate against the anti-Semitism rising Jewish community, absolutely should be collecting ethnicity data. He should not be invisible.
Would the Honourable Member take an intervention?
I will do.
I'm grateful. I wish to make a medical point. So considering the clear evidence for genetic propensity of Jews to certain medical conditions and diseases, is it not right that the NHS and the Department of Health treat data on Jews as both a religion and an ethnic group?
Yes, my honourable friend makes a really important point, and I really value his expertise in this House, because health inequalities is an area where we see this really being played out. And, you know, the NHS is doing some directive work with the Jewish community. I know this because it's happening in my constituency, because many Jewish women from Ashkenazi descent are predisposed to breast cancer, for example. And I can give you lots of these examples equally within the Sikh community, and that's why it's the real-life experiences of our communities who are not only visible, but actually their inequalities in health are not being addressed as a result of this situation we find ourselves in. I will.
I thank my honourable friend, and I'm very proud to represent a very large Sikh community in Sandwell, which is very near her constituency. I think it's really important what she campaigns for ethnicity data to be recorded for the Sikh community in things like the NHS, but also in things like Home Office data and crimes. We've suffered some very serious anti-Sikh hate crime in West Bromwich recently, which the community is very upset about, and I'm standing with them on. But can she say more about how this can help, not just in NHS and health data, but in other types of public data as well?
I thank my honourable friend for her intervention. She does some fantastic work locally with her communities, and I know she supports this campaign and really understands the real-life impact it has. And as she talks about anti-Sikh hate, we have seen a rise in hate crime across communities, but especially in terms of the latest Home Office data. If you look at the data on religious hate, then there's been an increase by 20% by the Sikh community. But I am going to come into this area around how hate crime is recorded both for the Jewish community and the Sikh community a bit more, and can I thank her for her intervention. When public bodies do not count a community, what we've heard from honourable members here today is that community is invisible, and that is clearly the case for Jews and Sikhs. My bill addresses that gap. It gives Jews and Sikhs the simple, fair recognition that the law already promises. And as legislators, it is our duty to ensure that the law is upheld and implemented. It is not optional for arm's-length government bodies or departments. The law is the law. COVID-19 showed us what is at stake when communities are not counted. When the ONS belatedly analysed COVID outcomes by religious group, it revealed that Sikhs died at disproportionately high rates even after adjusting for deprivation, for region and other socio-economic factors. Critically, Sikhs were affected differently from other South Asian groups, proving that existing ethnic categories failed to capture the reality. And for the Jewish community, deaths were almost twice the rate of the general population. So if we are serious about tackling health inequalities, then we must be serious about collecting accurate data. After all, it is about life and death. If the evidence from this work is not compelling enough for the ONS, then I really do not know what is. Recently, my honourable friend from West Bromwich stated that we've seen horrific incidences of anti-Sikh hate crime in the West Midlands. There have been 2 separate racially aggravated rapes of Sikh women, including one just outside my constituency, alongside a brutal physical attack on 2 Sikh taxi drivers. Of the 115,990 hate crimes recorded by the police in England and Wales between April 2024 and March 2025, 71% were recorded as racially aggravated. Yet despite the Home Office requiring police forces to provide the ethnicity of victims, and that's been something that came into play since April 2021, we only know the ethnicities of victims in 40% of offences. And within this 40%, Sikh and Jewish categories are not offered. So those 2 Sikh women that were subject to rape with a racial aggravation are not recorded as Sikh hate crimes. Of the 9% of hate crimes that were recorded as religiously aggravated, as I said earlier, the Home Office data shows a 20% increase in crimes specifically targeting Sikhs. So are we saying that Jewish and Sikh victims don't matter? I mean, I think this is a reasonable question from both communities. The Jewish community continue to face horrific abuse with the highest rate of religious hate crime of any group. The terrorist attack at Heaton Park Synagogue in Manchester was an awful reminder that there is still much more to be done to find anti-Semitism and keep British Jews safe. The lack of accurate data collection for the offence of racially aggravated hate crime is hiding the true severity of anti-Sikh and anti-Jewish hate crime, which means that the police and government cannot put proper targeted protections in place. The Sikh community are asking the government and the Home Office and MHCLG why it is not recognising and recording anti-Sikh hate crimes. And do you know what they say? They say it is because the ONS ask us to only use the existing ethnic categories. The ONS does not seem to understand that Jews and Sikhs face racial hatred, and that is distinct from religious hatred. So how are we meant to track and combat this racial hatred without data? Why does the Minister think the ONS is treating Sikh and Jewish communities in this way, given the recent levels of hate that they face and the decades that they have spent campaigning for fairness and equality? The ONS has acknowledged, from the many meetings and the many correspondence that it's had from me for the last 8 years, has acknowledged that ethnicity standards must reflect the United Kingdom's diversity. The Government Statistical Service, led by the ONS, recently consulted on additional categories for the ethnicity harmonised standard. But the criteria for evaluation of these responses, which were published last week, leave me apprehensive. Despite assurances to the contrary, I was disappointed that the criteria was almost identical to those used to decide the categories for the last census in 2021, where Sikhs and Jews were in the last 4 groups to be considered from a list of 55. These should not be treated as the same exercise. The harmonisation standard is primarily to assist public bodies to meet their equalities responsibility. I say that again, to meet their equalities responsibility and best serve all of Britain's diverse communities. The purpose of the census is, of course, much broader. But with that in mind, I was struck by the lack of any legal test. Sikhs and Jews have been legally recognised as ethnicities for decades. We know religion data isn't used by public bodies which implement this standard. In fact, the ONS know this and have publicly acknowledged this. Surely the GSS, led by the ONS, need to consider the bigger picture here and form a harmonised standard with its implementation in mind. If Sikhs and Jews are legally protected ethnicities, public bodies have a legal duty to monitor their outcomes and deliver services to address inequality. The GSS should want to develop a harmonised standard that allows public bodies to meet their legal obligations. The ONS have also claimed in meetings that there are apparently hundreds of potential ethnicities that could be included. But in the landmark 1983 case Mandela v Dowell-Lee, the law lords made life easier by establishing crucial criteria for defining an ethnic group. The Minister in this debate and after should signal to the GSS that as legislators we do expect the starting point of their consideration to be legally recognised ethnic groups like Sikhs and Jews, given the Protections and the Equality Act 2010. The second criteria, assessing whether there is a lack of alternative sources of information for the group, similarly demonstrates the ONS's short-sightedness. Whilst many Sikhs may choose to record their religion as Sikh, the ONS know this question is optional and it's not used to inform policy making and service delivery, and it is irrelevant to the execution of ethnicity equality's duties. Finally, the subjective acceptability criteria does not give me faith that the ONS have learnt any lessons from the past oversights. In the run-up to the census 2021, the ONS pushed aside calls for a Sikh ethnic tick box, citing divisions in the community. An argument I am disappointed has been repeated since. I would remind the House and the ONS that nearly 100,000 Sikhs and 65,000 Jews ticked other and wrote in their ethnicity in the census. That is hugely significant because this huge number of respondents from these two communities is far bigger than responses to any consultation, any focus group or exercises that the ONS may choose to carry out. Citizens want democracy to work for them so that they can have trust in our political system. That is our duty as legislators to do. So I am keen to understand what the government is saying to the 165,000 Jews and Sikhs who clearly sent a message to ONS and government that it wants the option to tick Jewish or Sikh. I'm not advocating or forcing anyone to identify in a certain way. respondents would still be able to record their ethnicity as they choose, as does any person from any background. The question here is whether the GSS and ONS gives greater weight to established legal precedents or a few dissenting voices in a focus group. If I may, this brings me more broadly on the relationship between the government, the ONS and Parliament. In a recent meeting with the ONS, they made it clear that they expect government to tell them their data needs. Yet in all my correspondence on this issue over the past years, ministers have responded stating they are relying on the GSSS and ONS. So let me be clear. It is right that our country's official statistics are independent of government, but at some point the relationship has shifted and we have lost our way. Government should obviously not be able to write its own scorecard, but that doesn't mean government departments shouldn't engage proactively with the ONS to outline what frameworks they need to be able to best serve the British public. I table questions to every government department asking whether they fed into the consultation on the harmonised standard. The responses I've had back have been hugely disappointing. Many departments have dodged the question, telling me to wait for the ONS's response to the consultation later this year to see whether departments fed in. How does this give Jewish and Sikh communities any faith? That despite dying disproportionately, that we are actually committed to addressing inequality in this House. It is a simple question. This is about transparency. I am grateful that the Home Office confirmed that they provided an organisational response. The relationship between government and the ONS should be reciprocal. These departments hold the data, many of which says that there is no data. They deliver services which are not directed at these groups. So they should be working with the ONS to push for better data that ensures they can meet their legal equalities duties. ONS are funded by the taxpayer and our civil servants. Civil servants must deliver for the public. In January, I tabled a question on an ethnicity pay gap reporting and received an interesting response. The Minister stated that the recent consultation on ethnicity and disability pay gap reporting considered whether ethnicity data should be collected following GSSS and the ONS current harmonised standard, which does not include specific Sikh and Jewish categories. So will the Minister today outline what provisions would be available for Jews and Sikhs to challenge ethnicity pay gap reporting if they are not included? This also demonstrates that some departments do recognise that they're not required to follow the GSS's framework. I would gently encourage ministers across government to consider whether the GSS harmonised standard is adequate for them to meet the equalities duties. To conclude, this campaign has the support of a broad coalition: the Board of Deputies, the Community Security Trust, the Anti-Semitism Policy Trust, the Sikh Federation, the Sikh Council, the UK Gurdwara Alliance, many health professionals. When I speak to my local police and local government, these organisations understand the lived reality of their communities. They see the consequences of missing data every single day in healthcare, in public safety, in education, in housing and employment. And in June last year, Birmingham City Council became the first local authority in England to include Sikh and Jewish ethnic categories when collecting data and delivering services. And I'm grateful to the Birmingham Labour Group's leadership on this issue, but is it really going to take every council in the country passing their own motion for Sikhs and Jews to be counted? What we are asking for here is simple: fairness. For over 40 years, Sikhs and Jews have been recognised as ethnic groups in law. It is time for public bodies to recognise them in practice and legislators to implement the law. Thank you.
The question is, this House has considered Sikh and Jewish ethnicity data collected by public bodies. The Minister to respond.
Mr. Bates, it's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. I want to thank the Honourable Member for Birmingham Edgbaston for tabling this important debate and other members for joining, and for her continued work over many years championing the rights of Sikh and Jewish communities. These communities contribute so much to British life, and both our families are great examples of this. The science of statistics helps us to understand the world and our place in it. As the Honourable Member has made clear today, this is particularly the case for minority groups who so often feel unseen and unheard by their government. We should always strive to identify data gaps which need addressing. The issues raised today with regard to Sikh and Jewish data and the impact of data gaps relating to these groups could not be more relevant or timely. As we speak, these topics are under active consideration by the Government Statistical Service as part of their review of the harmonisation of ethnicity standards. This is a critical process, and I know the honourable member and I will follow their progress closely and look forward to reading their findings when they are published in the autumn. In direct response to some of the issues and others raised, so for example, the honourable member has eloquently set out the impact the current data gaps of Sikh and Jewish communities in which become particularly apparent, as she mentioned, during COVID and in administering other public services. This is at the heart of this debate, and the government is committed to serving all our minority communities. As part of the review, she and other members should be reassured the ONS has committed to look at adding more ethnicity tick boxes, including options for Sikhs and Jews. As the honourable member is aware, as part of the review, the ONS held an open consultation between October 2025 and February 2026. The general public and all government departments in the Government Statistical Service were invited to respond to the consultation, with the statistical heads of profession in every department being contacted the day the consultation launched and again in January, a month before it closed. The ONS has committed to publishing all submissions they receive in April, and I have personally asked them to contact her directly when this information is available, as I know she raises concerns of when these are coming. Additionally, as part of the consultation process, the ONS engaged with key leaders in the Jewish and Sikh communities, the Board of Deputies of British Jews, Health and Care Jewish Staff Network, the Institute for Jewish Policy Research, the Jewish Association for Mental Illness, the Sikh Federation UK, the Supreme Sikh Council UK. Now the consultation has closed, the submissions are being analysed. Last week, the Government Statistical Service published the evaluation criteria for the assessment of proposed new tick box response options. The three headline criteria are: 1, the strength of user need; 2, lack of alternative sources; 3, acceptability, clarity and data quality. I hear her concerns of these being the same as before. I have spoken directly with the chair of the UK Statistics Authority and the Permanent Secretary of the ONS on the specific matter of Sikh and Jewish ethnicity tick boxes, and I have been assured that this will be considered as part of the review. I have further been assured, and I am confident, that the option to add additional tick boxes for Sikhs and Jews as an ethnic group is at this stage an open question, and that the ONS will reach an impartial and evidence-based decision. She mentions the issue of ethnicity pay gap, and I'm happy to take that away. On the issue of legality, the Equalities Act 2010 and the Public Sector Equality Duty are key components of the Government Statistical Service review and the user need for data to support equality monitoring for protected characteristic features, predominantly in the evaluation criteria. Under the Equalities Act, race is defined to include colour, nationality, the ethnic or national origins. This means that under the Act, both Sikhs and Jews are a racial group by reference to the ethnic origins. Both are also religious groups under the Act. Let me be clear, and she has also highlighted, the government, the ONS and the Government Statistical Service all recognise that Sikh and Jewish identity is an ethnicity as well as a religion. It is important to clarify that the Act does not specify particular ethnicities as being protected. Apart from anything else, this would mean we live in a country that has unprotected ethnic groups, and I am sure the honourable member will join me in agreeing that this would be completely unacceptable. What the Equalities Act in fact does do is provide protection to everybody on the basis of their ethnicity and of their religion or lack of religion. The Act protects all ethnicities, not some over others. However, protection within the Act does not legally mandate the inclusion of a tick box option for data collection purposes. Indeed, there are many hundreds, in fact, other ethnicities, all of which are recognised by the government, who also do not have a tick box, such as Kurdish or Persian or Hispanic Latino. Because there are so many ethnic groups that do not have their own tick box, individuals are given the option to write their ethnicity. In the 2021 census, 287 different ethnicities were recorded and published. Tick box response options in the survey form simply cannot include all the ethnic groups, which is why the tick box options should never be seen as a list of official or recognised ethnicities. As I have set out already, decisions on tick boxes involve a number of factors, including user need for the data, data quality, public acceptability, clarity for respondents, and the impact on comparability of data over time. I hear her where she discusses the need and the possible gaps in this, which is why the ONS is currently analysing and considering this as part of their review, and they will publish their findings in the autumn, which myself and the member, alongside other members, and as well as she mentioned, many Jewish and Sikh people within their communities keenly await, and we will go from there. On the issue she raises and other members mention on hate crime, I'd like to thank them for raising the important issues of hate crime. She and others and myself are united in our determination to tackle these abhorrent crimes within the UK. Everyone in this country deserves to feel safe and live their lives free from violence. She will know the statistical service in the UK is decentralised. How hate crimes are recorded is determined by the police and not the ONS. It is something I strongly encourage her to reach out directly to the Home Office to discuss, which I know she is already doing. Yes, I'm happy to give way.
Can I see clarity from her? Because all the correspondence I've had from the Home Office is saying that they have been told to use existing categories which are in the census according to ONS, and that's why they don't collect the data.
Minister.
I'm happy to take that away. Thank you for raising that. To conclude, I would like to thank the Honourable Member for raising this important topic today and for her ongoing hard work advocating for the Sikh and Jewish communities. Again, I'm keen to emphasise whether Sikh and Jewish ethnicity tick boxes should be introduced is an open question. I would like to reassure her that there is a clear and credible procedure in place in order to make an informed decision. This government should not and will not preempt the ONS's ongoing independent and impartial piece of work. This means that we all eagerly await the publication of the Government Statistical Services findings this autumn, at which point I anticipate that the Honourable Member and I will be in regular contact as to next steps based on the ONS's findings. Thank you.
Right. The question is that this House has considered Sikh and Jewish ethnicity data collected by public bodies. So many that opinion say aye, contrary no. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it. Now we move on to the next debate. Get ready.